Hi, Bernhard.
Hi, Carsten.
What do we do in this video?
Yes, we said it multiple times that we require some routing between the networking. So let's go to the overview slide, and we have a router in between for this one. So it's your central firewall, I think. So you do have a default gateway on either management network. So for the for the 0.0.0.0, that goes to some firewall, and that is your router, so that you can ping the management network from the odd side to the even side, right? That's a good start, but that's not all, right? We need to have some additional routes, but they need to be more specific, right? So we don't want to go via the central firewall. We want to have your high performant top switches, doing the routing for the replication traffic. But first of all, let's do a simple test just to see, what happens if we live migrate a virtual machine from one node to the other. And that's what you wanted to do. And so therefore,
So I will do it.
Take us away.
I take you away. So you mentioned I have
Mhm.
prepared some
Yeah.
PowerShell
Lovely.
lines here. First, we see the routes, and we
Mhm.
only have one route that is the default route, and it's going over the management interface 99. Okay.
Yeah.
So I prepared get VM, a small virtual machine. It has 4 gigabytes.
Yeah.
There is no operating system installed. That's always my first test. And if you want
Yeah.
to know more, we have this great Azure Stack HCI installation series. So I will move this VM
Mhm.
from the first node to the
Yeah.
second node. And the
So
second node is on the even side, and
yeah,
the first node
odd
is
to
on the
even, right? Okay.
exactly. So I prepared that. Here we have move VM,
Get it.
the big VM to the second node, and
Mhm.
it should be stored on the C drive. So it will start,
Okay.
and we switch over here to
Mhm.
Task Manager, and we see here on the management interface, we see 920
Right.
megabits, so 1 gigabit roughly, and the other interfaces are doing
Mhm.
nothing because he can't move traffic over those interfaces because he doesn't know how to get there, right?
So you
So it
have
will take
enabled
a
live
bit.
migration on the cluster. We don't have a cluster yet, but on
Yeah.
the hypervisors, what have you been chosen? SMB for live migration is what?
I've chosen SMB for the live migration protocol,
Right.
and I also tested it. So
Okay.
it's doing now SMB3 over the 1 gigabit interface, and this
Okay.
takes a bit because
Yes.
1 gigabit per second, 8 for a gigabyte, 4 gigabytes, it takes some time. So now it's here,
Yeah,
and I
and
move it
it's not the
just
biggest.
back.
It's not the
Yeah,
biggest machine, right? So it's only
no, it's not.
4 gigabyte,
Yeah.
right? In
And now you see it's coming back on this interface. So now
okay.
we add our routes. Should we go back to your slide?
Yeah, please switch over. So we have seen that the virtual machines traffic was via this direction, and whatever
Yeah.
this speed is defining how fast the live migration works. But we do have, and remember, we do have more performant hardware on that server, and we also do have a better network in between. So therefore, let's set up the routing, and that's what we do. We need to have multiple routes and specific ones. We are not forwarding it to the firewall for eating everything, right? And figuring out where the other stuff is. So you are more specific, right? So you say, hey, there is a router on each network that will take the specific path for the individual network, so that we have individual routing.
Yeah. When we show the switch structure
Mhm.
in a later video,
Yeah.
we will see the 100 gigabit switches are configured as IP routers. So
Yeah.
they have IP addresses in the same network, in every replica and cluster network, and we use those as routers to the other side.
Mhm.
Okay, so should we do that?
Yeah, let's do it, and switch over to your system.
So I prepared a little PowerShell for that. So create stretched routing. You see it here. So first we need some constants, which are the names of the adapters. These are the names how the virtual adapters are named, and these are the physical adapter names. Yeah, you know, when we do get net adapter, we get this V Ethernet and then the name. And if we address the VM network adapter, we have to use other names. It's a bit weird, but it is that way. So I will
Sometimes a
just
bit inconsistent, yes. So
yeah.
yeah,
So I
okay,
will
good.
just set these variables, and then again I run the script on the first node. So we have to implement routes, for example, from the cluster network. First, we have to figure out where is the node. So we are in
Yeah.
the odd side. So we have a network adapter that is part of this network. And it has to get a route to the 110 network. So 111 to 110, 113 to 112. So
Okay.
we just prepare our cluster networks and
Yeah.
replica networks for the different sites,
Mhm.
because this script can run on all nodes. Copy. So let's do it. So, and now this is one, these two lines are remove a route if it's there, if we do something wrong. And believe me, with routing, you can do a lot of wrong and then
Yeah.
implement the new net route. So we have seen in the video before, there were no routes. Let's do it again. Yeah, if we do it, only our default route. And then
Yeah.
now let's do all the routes for, or let's do the replica routes.
Yeah. And then we'll check it because it's a little bit too much to digest for the
Yeah.
folks, I
So
think,
we
right?
set two routes for both subnets. So you see here something, but let's do this again. So now you see we have our default route and we have two additional routes. Yeah. So the target is the network in the even part, the 108.0 and the 106.0. This is a subnet we want to route packets to. And
Right.
we are in the odd network, so the 107 network should be able to send the packets to 106 and the 109 to 108. And on your
So
visualization,
yes, so
maybe
only
we go
my
back to your
yeah,
picture.
yes. So we can't do a split screen here, I would say, but I think we what we are trying to do is to hook up the replica network odd to the replica network even on the other side, right? So this is let's just
The
maybe
one
do
odd
that.
to the one even and the
Right,
two odd to the two even.
right.
That's exactly what we are doing.
Yes, and wherever we are, I mean, the routes need to switch, right? So it's depending on who is the next hop, and
Exactly.
the dot one on each of the network is your router.
Router,
In
exactly.
yes,
So
okay.
go back to my screen. You see here the next hop is the host has an IP address in the 107. We can
Right.
see that. I have another.
Yeah, that's the 51, right? Always you are on the first node, so it would be
Yeah, you see here.
51. Yeah.
It has all the odd
hmm
subnets. Yeah,
Yep.
and we were in the 109 and in the 107. We have the
hmm
51. And if we look at the routes, we are here,
hmm
109, 107, and we want to reach this network. Okay, these are not, don't set the default gateway on the adapter. Then the host doesn't know which default gateway to use to reach, for example, Azure or the internet.
Yeah.
Use network routes. So these are network routes, yeah, not default routes. This is the default route.
So are we ready to test it yet? So would you be able to ping it?
We can try it. So we could ping a node in the 108 network, and I prepared on the second one. Yeah,
Yes. So
just let me show the routes on the second one, because to test it, the other host has to have the routes, right? Otherwise, the packets don't come back.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I would just ping it and see where the trace
yeah,
route goes to. But
yeah. Here you see
yeah. hmm
it's set it here on the second one, so I had to do that to
So you did it, okay?
yeah.
And so you added the routes to the other nodes, But that was not all. I mean, you also needed to do it on the physical switches or on the
Yes,
physical
yes,
devices to do. So this is not
exactly.
what we are not showing this, but we are showing you the effect of this, because a switch might be totally looking different on your side because you're using different hardware than Carsten does. We'll show you the switch afterwards, and maybe jump into the switch configuration at some point in time.
Yeah,
But just be aware, not only the nodes need to have the right routing rules, but also the switches. But
exactly. So you see here, if I do a trace route to the 108 net, the 52, the second node has the 52 in that network. You see, we go to the 109 one, and then we reach our destination, and the same should be true with the 106. These are the two routes we implemented. If I would try the 10,
which is the cluster
so you see
traffic.
here, yeah, the 10, it doesn't have a specific route to the cluster network, so it sends the packet to the default gateway,
Right.
and now it sends the packet out to the internet and will never come back. So if we do a ping, we can't get a reply, but the trace route shows us the way into the internet. Yeah?
Okay.
And this is a private IP address, so it shouldn't go out. But now we will implement the two missing routes in the cluster network. Copy. Yeah, I show the routes again, and here we see now we have also the 110 and the 112 from our networks.
Yeah. So the previous ping, I mean, if you would have done it from the other, yes, so this one, so this is a cluster network on node number 2, and you're trying it to reach from node number 1. Let's assume you have done the same thing on node number 2, or the corresponding thing. Then that should work, right?
Yeah, now we are not going over the 99 one, the default gateway. We are now going over the switch. Yeah?
Okay.
And the same is true for the other network. Okay. Now the packets don't go out to the internet. Now they go.
Right.
So what do we do next, Bernhard? I switch back to your presentation, right?
Yes.
We now have the routes.
Yes, we now have the routes, and you remember we have we want to do the live migration stuff, right? So we 2 live migration tests. So live migrate from within the same site, so from node number 1 to node number 3, or 2 to 4. And then on test number B, it would be live migrate what we did before, from the odd to the even, or even to odd. Doesn't matter, and we will watch closely which networks will be chosen for each live migration.
So
Okay.
I switch again to my presentation, and now I'm here in Hyper-V Manager on another system, and we had only 4 GB of memory. So this is for a live migration over SMB3 with very powerful cards. That's really not enough memory. It starts and we can't really watch a lot. So I increase it to 40 GB, or should I do? I do 40 GB.
Yeah.
Okay. So I start the VM again.
Mm-hmm.
We go to our host. So if we do get VM, we see now it has 40,000 something megabytes assigned, and I do my move again.
Where are you moving to? To node number 3.
No, should we do 3 or 2?
Yeah, that would be our in the slide it was A. It was the option A, our first test.
Oh, I can do it to the third one, of course. So destination host.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
And fortunately, I implemented the routing on all other hosts, at least I think. So now we are moving a VM, a VM from node 1 to node 3. Yeah?
So in the same site. Okay, so let's see.
And it should use, you see here, it doesn't use any network adapter, but it's already done.
Okay, so it must have been faster. Okay,
It
so
was
now
very
it's
fast. It's 10 times the size.
yeah, um,
So I can move it back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we go here, the magic is you don't see any network traffic on any adapter.
Yeah, I'm suspicious. I would say, well, from the knowledge of the previous video series, I know that RDMA traffic in a Rocky configuration doesn't show up in Task Manager, so we'll need to
Exactly.
do perfmon, right, in order to see it.
And I prepared that already. So here,
Ah,
what we see in the perfmon is also not running on the Azure Stack HCI console. So you have to use it remotely from another
mhm,
server with a GUI installation. And here I started that. And you see here, I'm not looking at the numbers of the machine. It's our
mhm,
PK WAC machine. We will use
mhm.
that later. I'm looking at the numbers of our first node. And I
Okay.
added the RDMA adapters, but only specific ones. Yeah, these
Mhm.
are the two virtual SMB adapters, and these
Correct.
are the
100
100
gig.
gigabit adapters. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we now do, I think the machine is here, right? If we now do our live migration, you see
Quick.
here,
Oh,
we see
yeah.
RDMA traffic. Yeah, through the virtual adapters and also on the physical adapters, because the virtual adapters, the traffic has to go out through the physical. And this was 40 gigabytes. So it's
Mhm,
very fast. Yeah, even
mhm.
if we look at RDMA, we should increase the memory again. Yeah. Should I do that?
Yeah, let's do it because it would give us a little bit more time to look at the actual values, to be honest, and maybe do a calculation on the links or on the live migration speed if we are good.
So let's do 200. Yeah. So this is not exactly 200 gigabytes, it's 200,000 megabytes. I will start it again. Yeah, we will go here and start the move. And then we look at our perfmon and we see here now data is coming in. And here we see inbound frames and inbound bytes. And there's a speciality with perfmon. There's a comma and a point. Comma in US is between 1,000ths. Point is the German comma. So if you have something below zero or a fraction of a full number, it's a point, and the other way. This was already roughly 200 megabytes. So it's so fun to do live migration over uh, fast adapters with RDMA. So here we see now it's roughly the outbound bytes. It's 6 gigabytes, 6.1 gigabyte on this adapter, and now it's 7.7. So it's going a bit around
Mhm.
7.9. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's done already. Yeah.
So that's approximately, I would say, 50 gigabit, right? Sort
Yeah.
of ish, if I calculated it up.
Per adapter, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
cool.
we can get up to 130 gigabit in total on both adapters. We don't reach 200 gigabit. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a hardware thing here. So, but this
Okay,
was one, two. Where is the
three.
machine now?
So intra, that was intra site, right?
So I have to
Um,
move it back. No, I have to move it
mhm.
back, but it's very fast. So when we have it on the first one again, we go back to your slides, Bernhard, right? Or should I do another test?
Well, no, you should do the other test and we'll do the summary afterwards, right? So we did that
Okay.
one, right? So
So now
we
from odd
did,
to even, right?
right? Now from odd to even, correct.
Okay, this is even more surprising. So
Mhm.
from odd to even,
Mhm.
yeah, we can't use the SMB adapters, those here. So we can't use RDMA. We disabled RDMA for all other adapters. So now let's see what's happening if we move not to the third node, we
Mhm.
move it to the second one.
Correct.
Okay, should I fire it up?
Yes.
So it will be also not too slow.
Mhm.
And you see here, this is
Right.
this is not really traffic, it's kilobit. Then we have
Yes.
20 gigabits here,
Yes.
21 gigabits here,
Yeah.
20 gigabits here,
Yeah.
20 gigabits here,
Wow.
0 and 0 on the SMB adapters.
Okay. So we are using all the routed networks now.
We are using 4 routed networks, right? And SMB multi-channel a really great feature in SMB3, uses all 4 of them. And I can move it back so that we see it again.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not on the third one. It's now on the second one, right? There we are. So go back here. Now we should see the incoming traffic on the receiving side, right? So here 23, 22, 24. It's even faster. So this is roughly also 100 gigabit, a little bit less, but let's say 80 to 100 gigabit. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, from a performance perspective, hey, I would say cool. But from a and we also, sort of tested with this a bit your switching infrastructure. So good switches, I would say. But if we go back to the slides, I see, we have traffic passing over the replication adapters, right? For live migration, and that's maybe not something that we want, right? Because you said we can only use, or should ideally only use, replica adapters or replica traffic for replica, or the replica network for replica traffic, and nothing else. No live migration, right?
So live migration is also only an example. It will only also do the redirected I/O if we have those, and also cluster traffic, and also heartbeat. Yeah. But heartbeat is not SMB3, but SMB3 traffic will be there, and heartbeat also. For heartbeat, we have to do something else. So what do we do, Bernhard?
Okay, so yeah, we need to come up with something in order to restrict the live migration traffic, which is using SMB, to the individual networks or adapters, right? And the first thing that we'll do is we add an SMB multi-channel constraint in order to shape the traffic flow a bit, and then we'll repeat the test again after we did this. Okay.
And what's important, I go to my slide, to my host again. So we direct the SMB traffic. So live migration uses SMB3, but it's also for all other SMB traffic we direct it. Yeah? And for that, we have the multi-channel constraints, and I prepared a little weird script for that, and you have your own. Yeah. So we have 4 nodes. Yeah, we have to say we are on node 1 now, and if we want to go to node 3 in the same site, you are allowed to use RDMA over the SMB adapters. But if you go to the other side, so node 2 and node 4, it should use only the cluster networks, not the replication network. Yeah. So if I do here a get SMB multi-channel constraint, you see there is nothing. So just let the script run, I would say.
Yeah, and then do a get SMB multi-channel constraint again.
It's a bit complex to explain. Yeah. So now I do my get. This is wrong.
Yeah.
So CLS get. I should type get. This is live SMB. There are a lot of SMB multi constraints, and now we see we have constraints here. What does it mean? We are on host 1. If we go to host 3, host 1 and host 3 are in the odd side, so same side. Please use the SMB1 and SMB2 network. We also set the constraints for the SMB networks. It would use them anyway because they are using RDMA, but if we would turn off RDMA on the adapter, it would use all 6 adapters. And yeah, so we say specifically use SMB1 and SMB2 if you are in the same side. If we go to the even side 2 here, use the cluster networks, and also for node 4. And now I have to do the same.
Yes.
The same on the second node.
But you also need to do it, logically correct, right? So.
Of course, there's the script for, and you see it here. If the second node goes, let's see, get SMB multi-channel constraints 441133. So
correct.
4, 2, and 4 on the same side. Use SMB. 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 are not in the same site, use the cluster networks.
Correct.
Okay, we did it now.
Mm-hmm.
Where's our VM? Is it here? You can see
don't
that
know.
on the memory. Yeah, it is. Now
Yeah,
210
okay. Yeah.
megabytes. So let's move.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be lazy. Let's copy. Let's copy this line and change the host, of course. The host name would be 2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We want to go from 1 to 2,
side.
so intra-site from the
No,
odd to the
inter-site, not intra.
inter-site.
Yes.
That would be to the third one, right?
You are no node 1 to node 2 is across 2 sites.
So I thought that was inter or intra. Doesn't matter. We want to go from odd to even.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Kick
So
it off.
I will do that.
Yes.
Let's have a look here and at our adapters. Live migration start. And you see here, we have 32 gigabit on the 2 virtual adapters. So now it's only
on
65?
the cluster network. Only on the cluster network, and the replica networks are no longer being used for the live migration, right?
Exactly. So it's a little bit slow in the moment, yeah, but it's still 35, 30 something gigabit. And it's done. So if we move the VM back, here the constraints are also no. Move it to 1. We can take this one. We look here. It should also come in cluster 1 and cluster 2, because we also set the constraints on the other side, and there we are. Okay.
Okay, so cool. Then if you could switch back to my screen, we'll do the summary.
Already
which is,
done. So share your...
Yes, which is this, right? So if we do the live migration of a virtual machine within the same site, it will use the SMB adapters now. And if we do it from an odd to the even site or even to odd, it will use the cluster adapters, right?
Okay.
And no longer the replication adapters, which is what we wanted to do. Right. Okay. So that's, I think, the conclusion of the routing video, right? And we need to do some more and look a little bit at the switching infrastructure.
We will. Okay. See you soon.